intro. Hello.
Hello, guys. This is Michelle Diamond, your host of In the House Media House Call inside of 285. And we are back with Miss Felicia Davis and Mr. John Taylor. And we are going to speak on some amazing topics this evening and why it's important to get out there and exercise your right when it comes to voting. And of course, this segment is powered by Sapphire Emerald Magazine, as well as www.unstoppableproducts.com, and of course, in part with Made by God Apparel. So, we are back, and thank you guys for stopping in to speak with us and educate our viewers. So, I would like to start off with Mr. Taylor, since Ms. Davis is on the phone. Mr. Taylor, could you let the viewers know who you are, what it is that you do, the organization that you're with, and we can go from there.
Absolutely, Michelle, my pleasure. Thanks for having us on this evening.
Absolutely.
Sure. So, yep, I am John Taylor. I work with Black Male Initiative Georgia, which is a community-based C3 organization focused on lifting up the positive work of Black men in collaboration with our sisters. We focus on the reality that our greatest resources are our elders and our youth. And we want to make sure that everyone understands that Black men are critical thinkers, that we're bonded to Black women, that we value our community, and that we support the leadership of Black women. We are proud of the leadership of Black women.
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. And before I go in with you, thank you again, Miss Davis, for coming in and, gracing us with your presence and giving us your time and to educate our viewers. Miss Davis, if you can, let our viewers know exactly who you are and what it is that you do and what organization that you represent.
Sure. Felicia Davis. I am the convener for the Clayton County Black Women's Roundtable. We work in coalition with the entire Georgia Black Women's Roundtable, with Ellen Butler and the People's Agenda, and Deborah Scott, Georgia Stand Up. And together we try to cover Black women's issues in Georgia.
Yes, all amazing things. And I had the opportunity to actually go out and canvass with both of you guys and, some of the people that, were out there. And, I sat in briefly for the training. And oh my gosh, you guys are very detailed and organized. And I love that because we need that. You don't see that, often. And to just have that organization and everything flow as smoothly as it did. My hats off to you guys. Very commendable. And what got to me was to see how many young people were eager to be involved. That placed a huge smile on my face. And I'm coming to tears. And some of them, a lot of young black males, and I was truly, truly surprised. So, whatever you're doing, Mr. Taylor, Ms. Davis, continue the work. And I mean, I know we have a long road, but that for me, it was overwhelming, breathtakingly overwhelming. I was just like, wow. So good job there.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to speak to you guys about, I know, a lot of us came out, strong pursuit for November 3rd, and we're here. We know, early voting started and why it's important for us to exercise our right, especially, within our local ordinances.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can jump out first because that's always easier. John doesn't leave a lot on the table, so I'm going to take this opportunity to get ahead of my good brother. Um, so you know, uh, I've been asked that question a few times, and I try to answer it like this: voting is a right, and a right is most valuable when exercised. And I'm of the mind that if you have a right that you don't exercise, there's not much difference between that and not having it. So, in order to fully appreciate having the right to vote, if you're eligible to vote, registered to vote, then the next step in the execution is actually voting. And so for a lot of people, if they are a first time voter or a sometime voter, there can be a bit of anxiety. For the regular normal voter, that every time it comes up, you go do what you have to do. For some folks that hasn't been their norm, there can be some anxiety. And some of them may have held back in November, right? A lot of us voted, but it wasn't everybody. So when I'm saying this is the second go around, and like John likes to say to his brothers, we got you. So all you have to do is come to the poll, right? Don't ride by, just come to the poll, and we got you. We're going to take you right on through. When I say that it's easy as picking this or that, right? That's all you have to do. Pick this or that. And you walk in, once you do that, you've exercised your right. And you've not relinquished that right to others that may not have your best interests at heart.
So true. And Mr. Taylor, what about you? Can we hear a little bit of your viewpoint on that?
Absolutely. So um, I don't leave much off the table, but I learned that from Felicia. so we take every opportunity. Um, I'll say for this election specifically, there are some key factors at stake. These Senate seats are critical. We understand that the decision making for the federal government is in play. We understand that shoring up the fact that Georgia turned progressive is at play. We understand that having so many of our brothers and sisters in the streets turn out to the polls in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of an uprising, in the midst of some of the most egregious violence we've seen against Black bodies, women and men, this year is at stake. And so it's critical that Black voices are heard, quite frankly. And I think one of the conversations that we often have with the brothers is that it's not an option to stand on the sidelines. It's not good enough to say, "Oh man, I'm not going to vote because voting doesn't change anything." Well, okay, if you feel like it doesn't change anything, what will you do? What I can guarantee you is that staying home doesn't grow power. And so, just like the sweater I'm wearing, you saw the other day, all the brothers are wearing them. The question is, who's afraid of Black power? Well, my question first is, how do we get Black power? How do we build Black power? How do we grow Black power? And how do we make substantive change to the material conditions on the ground? And so, a lot of times in the conversations we're having, we're clear about the fact that we may not be choosing our champion, but we're at bare minimum choosing our opponent. And so, what kind of opponent do you want to deal with? Do you want somebody who has principles? Do you want somebody, just like Felicia said, when you choose this, you may have someone who has zero principles and zero care for you. When you choose that, you're choosing someone who has at least rhetoric on play that is supposed to speak to your community's needs. We understand that while we may not feel like the system cares about us, the system is still a system and it operates in a certain way. So being on the sidelines doesn't grow our power. It doesn't give us a better opportunity to make change in our community. So, I'm a fan of leave nothing on the table and take everything you have. Dr. Lowry used to tell donors when they made contributions, he said, "Now, look, I'll take your money, but I'll make a flyer and protest against you with it tomorrow. He used to say, uh, your donation doesn't buy my voice. It gets you a tax write-off. I think that's what our Black community needs to understand. No matter who shows up knocking at our door, talking to us about what needs to happen, if they leave the day after the election, they don't really care about us. So no one else is going to save us. We have to take a page from our sister's book. We got to save ourselves. You can't throw a rock and hit a TV screen that doesn't lift up the positive work that Black women are doing these days. Also have to make sure that
Absolutely.
Black men are doing their work and that our positive work is being lifted up and that our support for sisters is being lifted up. We shouldn't have to have our sisters in spaces leading and lifting and carrying the work. And when they look to their left and their right, there are no brothers standing with them. So, one of our
Correct.
commitments is that we're not going to have our sisters carrying this burden alone. We're standing with them and we're going to do it together.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I concur. So with that, I know, exercising our rights and how can, you know, the people or the viewers that are here this evening get involved with, going out and canvassing? Is it too late? Are they still able to sign up? How can they contact you guys? I had to put it out there.
So for me, first of all, it's never too late, and I welcome people to reach out to us at Clayton County BWR. However, what I am now asking people from this moment forward is cover your block. And I consider a block to be, unless you're in a cul-de-sac, and some people are. So if you're in a cul-de-sac, your block may be 4 or 5. But on the average, let's take a block as 10 houses. So notwithstanding our efforts canvassing door to door, and John is out there, I'm out there, we've got legions of people out there, but nothing speaks like your block. And then people say, I don't know anybody on my block. More reason to canvass. The one thing about you doing your block, the people on your block have probably seen you. So if you're on a block, you know how important this is. Knock 5 or 10 doors. If you didn't do 10 doors, you're a winner. You're in the club. You're in the canvas club. You're in the get down club. You're in it to win it club. So 5 doors, then you're coming on up. And if especially you got the cul-de-sac club. But at a minimum, you need to, it's not up to me and John and canvassers. Now, some folks need to get paid, and John is going to probably give you a QR code and a hashtag and a number and a Bentley and some more. But, so if you need to get paid, that's another thing. We do pay our workers. We have volunteers with bonuses, right? But everybody needs to do their part. And number one, you have to vote. Number two, knock on a neighbor's door or a relative's door. You don't have to go in, knock, stand back 6 feet. John, you can tell them the drill.
So that's absolutely right, Felicia. And I love the way you put that. You know what I'm saying? There's levels to this, but you got to get in the game. You have to. So the reality is for us, we tell folks all the time, talking to your neighbor is critical, right? Because all organizing is local at the end of the day. All politics is local at the end of the day. It depends on what we do with it. So we're really telling folks that if you want to get out and canvas, you want to get out and knock doors, you can get on. We'll make sure you have all the links. You can connect with www.blackmen.build. You can go to our Facebook page. Yep.
Peoplesagenda.org.
Yep. You can go to our Facebook pages at Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. You can go to Black Male Initiative Georgia. You can go to Black Women's Roundtable. You can check in with the National Coalition on Black and Civic Participation. Any of those pages or links will take you to the contact for us so that we can get on and you can canvas. The 3 things I want to say, though, is that, our communities are underserviced. We know that in the state of Georgia alone, just in the metro counties of Clayton, Fulton, DeKalb, Bibb, Cobb, and Fayette and Henry, we know that there are approximately 192,000 part of 20 counties that make up about 320,000 registered Black men who are listed as infrequent or low propensity voters, and that's kind of like jargon for these folks haven't voted since 2008 for Obama. And quite frankly, the reason they haven't voted is because the message doesn't resonate with them. They don't trust the system, the dynamics, the politics, or anything else. Doesn't mean they're lazy, doesn't mean they're stupid, doesn't mean it just means that nobody appeals to them. And quite frankly, nobody spends the amount of money on Black voters that they spend on white middle class voters. And so what we're saying is the best thing we can do is lift ourselves up by talking to our own community, talking to our neighbors. So getting on those doors, hitting that 10 is critical. When you hit the door, we have lit that is very simple. There's a QR code. If you're between the ages of 18 and 30, you can scan the QR code with your camera on your phone. It'll take you to a website. You'll fill out the survey. You'll answer the questions about voting. You'll go to another link. It'll give you a pledge to sign. You'll get information for follow-up. If you put in the bit.ly link, which is essentially a small web address, it's a short web address. If you're between the ages of 35 and 45, you're pretty good with the web. You can use that web address. It'll get you where you need to go. And then short of that, if you're older, then we have the Facebook handle, and you can go on to Facebook and just search us on the web and you can find it, right? So there's a couple of ways for anybody, regardless of their generation, to scan the code, check in, give some information, just some simple stuff, name, phone number, email address, and then say, yes, I want to follow up. Yes, I want to know more. But the other thing is, I think it's critical for folks to understand the process. Everybody we talk to understands that there's a runoff election, and most people understand why it's important, quite frankly. There's not a lot of questions about that. People have questions about the process. And so, you were able to register to vote for this election up until December 7th, right? If you hadn't registered by December 7th and you haven't registered yet, then you're not going to be able to vote in this election if you weren't already registered. But that does not mean that you're off the hook. You still have to do what Felicia said, go knock all those doors, talk to your neighbors, get folks out. Does not matter if you have a conviction or you're a returning citizen, you had a felony. That doesn't stop you from talking to your neighbors and your family and your friends. And it's even more important for you to say to them, hey, man, I need you to go out and vote because I can't. But then for folks who did register by the 7th, early vote started on the 14th, right? And so we should be clear about the fact that you can go vote now. You can early vote now. And this is not one of the CP time situations. We need you to go ahead and vote now. If you've not already requested a vote by mail ballot, then you need to get your application in and request that now. Because our process is a little janky, y'all. Let's be honest about it. We have an out-of-state vendor for our absentee ballots, which means that from the day it's received, not the day you submit it, the day your application is received by the Secretary of State, it can take up to 10 days before you receive your absentee ballot. Let's do the math. You can't early vote forever. You can only early vote until about the 31st. The election is on January 5th. If you don't get your absentee ballot in the mail before Christmas, we have serious problems. Christmas is next week. Let's get it together, right? So we want folks to go ahead and early vote now so that it's out the way. Don't let it impact your holiday. Don't let it impact your shopping. Don't let it impact your festivities. And then the other thing I'm going to say about this is we all know lots of folks miss Thanksgiving. They chose to stay at home and not risk grandma's health because they wanted to hold off to Christmas because this is the big holiday. Lots of folks travel. Lots of folks come off. Well, God forbid you end up catching COVID while you're visiting folks on holiday and you have to go into a 14-day quarantine. If we do the math, 5 and 5 is 10, 10 carry to 1, then all of a sudden 14 days gets us past January 5th. So I won't even be able to go out and drop my absentee ballot in the mail, which I shouldn't do after a certain point because I can't guarantee it's going to get to the Secretary of State, the Board of Elections office. So I got to go to the ballot drop box And if I go to the ballot drop box, I have to be off of quarantine to do that. So if I don't get my absentee ballot into the ballot drop box before the end of voting on January 5th, it doesn't count. Doesn't count. So go vote now. Talk to everyone you know. Make it a commitment before Christmas. Before you wake up and open those gifts and sing those songs and have that cheer and eat that good food, cast that vote.
So John,
Yes.
like when I'm listening to you, we encounter quite a number of people to say, yeah, that all sounds good, but that doesn't do anything for my
Yes.
world. I got stuff I'm dealing with. I have challenges. We have food insecurity.
Mm.
People that ever thought they would
Yes.
be on a line to grab some groceries, other than in a grocery store with a check or a credit card or cash, right? So those people that are kind of pressed down a little bit, we're asking folks, knowing they're under stress and pressure, right? Knowing it's Christmas and COVID, knowing it's cold in Georgia and we are most unaccustomed to standing in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
We are in and out when it gets cold. We are southern no matter where we came from. Once we get here, we become southern in that way. So now we have cold weather. We have all of these issues. We have Christmas coming. We have every distraction in the world. We have commercials that are just heinous.
Mm.
I don't care who you're looking for or looking at, right? How do we break through all of that to say, even given all of that, because I'm still seeing 80 and 90-year-olds making it in. I'm seeing the walkers click clacking to the door. So for the other people, I want to say, yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. But when it gets hard like this, that's when you have to kind of saddle up, kind of straighten your back and just do what you have to do. And if you know that you're a little frail, you can check to see when the line is light. If you have a ride. Now we have rides to the poll.
Yes.
I'm gonna cheat and look at the number 877-524-8683. So that if you need a ride to the poll, and you will get a ride home. So we're not the kind of folks that gonna leave you. We'll give you a ride home. We will have a lift code number, but we tested it. It didn't work out. So we have to check that lift code. So, but right now we do have rides to the polls. If you want to ride, need a ride, 877-524-8683. But I think we have a hard ask for some people that are having a tough time. And John, you're more eloquent in your manner to bring the folks around to being able to push through when you may be hungry and tired and cold and your lights might go off, your heat's not straight. How do we get that person to vote?
It's funny that you mentioned that, Felicia, because the reality is that's one of the main reasons why we have to actually get out and have our voice heard. Like,
Yes.
times are tough, but we tougher. We come from a people that have always made it through. We've dealt with, our ancestors dealt with some of the
Mm.
tough stuff you could imagine. Like,
Amen.
I can't even look. A lot of times we watch movies and folks say, "Oh, if I'd have been alive back then," look, man, I can't tell you I'd have done none of that if I'd have been alive back then. I don't know how they made it, but they did. And I know I got some of them flowing through my veins. But when I think about it, we're dealing with a situation where we have a state where a corporate immunity bill passed in the legislature. Now, what that means is that if you get sick because you're forced to go work a job during this pandemic under COVID, your boss is off the hook. He gets immunity. You can't sue that man or that woman. You can't sue them. We have a legislature that made it impossible for us to continue a moratorium on your utility bill. So let's just break that down. We're dealing with a situation where right now in the state of Georgia, after 9.5 months of a pandemic, multiple closures, and people being out of work. People that were called essential being treated as if they were expendable, like
Amen.
tissue paper. We're dealing with a situation where they were allowed, utility companies were allowed to end the moratorium on utility bills. So what that means for folks is that now they charging you full freight for your lights and your gas. Now they can start talking about you need to pay your bill on time. And when they tell you, well, it's okay. We're gonna put you on a payment plan. You'll be on a payment plan for 6 months, and we'll let you catch up. Well, if I got a $4,000 bill that's 9.5 months old, and I ain't worked in about 10 months, and you gonna put me on a payment plan
Mm.
that's gonna require me to pay anything more than zero, then I'm still.
Problem.
And so at the end of 6 months, when that payment plan is now up and that full bill is due, right? And they can cut off my utilities. Well, we all know if we live in Georgia, once they cut off your utilities, now your home gets condemned. It's no longer livable. So now they can move you out. They bring the sheriffs in and they politely escort you out your house. That's the system that we living in. We've got to put people in these offices that make decisions that will allow us the grace to live our lives. They got to start treating us like human beings, y'all. Now, I can't guarantee you that you going to that poll is going to mean that things are going to magically change. As a matter of fact, I can guarantee you that going to the polls does not mean things are going to magically change.
It's a start.
But it's a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's you saying, I'm not going to sit idly by and let you treat me any kind of way. We got a choice, and we got to make that choice to stand up for ourselves and our community. That's why it's critical that we go to those polls.
Absolutely. Definitely. I definitely agree. And, I was fortunate enough to be out on the first day when we were, down there with Miss Barbara and, talking about, Mr. Lewis, may he rest in peace. And, everything that our ancestors have done before us, MLK and, the marches and, they brought up Danville, Virginia. And, lo and behold, I used to reside in Danville, Virginia, and I was there during the time when they did the march across that little old bridge and, the numbers that came out to support it. So, I understand, especially coming from a huge Confederate state and being a Confederate town, that little small town of Danville, you go down that little hill off of 29 right there, and all you see is the Confederate flags like right in your face. And the oppression there is very real. Like, I resided there for 2.5 years and you could feel it. And, I worked with the city and I was able to, incorporate and, do some implementations to bring about some changes. And, I was fortunate for that. But what I love that you both have stated, it starts with us, especially when we're trying to see the changes. We have to take that first step in the right direction. It may be hot, it may be cold, we may be sick, but guess what? If we don't get up and do something about it, we're going to continue to be hot. We're going to continue to be cold. We're going to continue to be sick. We're going to continue to have poverty. We're going to continue to hear people crying that they have no food, crying about their bills, crying about education, crying about the communities being degraded, so if we don't take that first step in exercising what we have, our God-given rights, then what do we have?
It's really important for people to understand that voting, among the things that we do, I don't put that's not top of my list for civic engagement. Okay, there's the other elements, not only teaching children in school, our teachers, serving and all of, I mean, from the guy that picks up the trash so it doesn't pile up on top of me, right? Mm-hmm. From that job all the way through, doing your assignment, covering your lane. That's number one. And some people are sitting around and life has presented them with a predicament where they're not sure what to do, right? You don't know. You're just kind of out here. Well, the thing to do in that instance is join an organization. So step number one is cover your job. You don't have to have a job to help your family. If you are not working, then everything should be dusted, swept up, in order, and tight. And then if you are working, you're doing that job and then try to keep as much order as you can. Keep the kids straight. Okay. Now, if you are not employed or engaged, and even if you are, join an organization. It doesn't have to be the Black Women's Roundtable or the Black Male Initiative. Those are two great ones, however. But it could be the People's Agenda, wonderful. Georgia Stand Up, great. Some of the legacy, NAACP, National Coalition on Black Civic, Urban League. You know, we have a plethora of organizations. Pick one. Join something. It could be your church, your faith base. Don't just come and suck up the sermon. Make sure that you plow something back in, because out of serving, conditions change, not just for you, but for others. So before the vote is really important, but don't anybody hear us chirping about the vote and think that's the number one thing that John and Felicia are about doing. No, that's what we do once or twice a year, some years 3 or 4 times. But we are on it every day. We always have a day on. We always have a day on. And if you don't know how to get involved, because for me to say it, that sounds good, you can get hyped listening to my voice. Well, you can reach me. You reach out to me, I'm going to reach back. You reach out to John, he's going to reach back. John going to keep reaching back.
Oh, yeah.
I probably touch back once I'm just honest. You might have to pursue me a little more. John, if you look like you're going in that direction, he's going to grab you. That's how we are. That's how we are. And that builds family and community so that we begin to once again know one another. Because when we know each other, we treat each other differently. We have a different kind of conflict when we are related, right? And we have to find, always have some conflict. We always did. But now we do not have to resort to violence, name calling, and ugliness. We can be civil and make our point. So I just want people to understand voting is important, very important, but being on your job on purpose. And if you don't know your job, your purpose, or your place, the best way to find it is to join an organization. And if you don't feel good in that one, guess what? Keep it moving. Try another one. But you need to be affiliated with an organization. We can't get anywhere or anything without organizing.
Absolutely. So,
I just want to say,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say two things. One is I appreciate that critically. I'm going to tell folks, you don't have to start a new organization, right? I want to be really clear about what Felicia said. Join an organization. Go take one over, right? There's enough stuff. You don't have to recreate the wheel and bump your head 30 times. One of my brothers, Cairo, out of New Orleans, had made a joke the other week. He said, man, they used to tell me that experience was the best teacher. And he said, no, that's not true. He said, other people's experience is the best teacher. Because if I don't have to bump my head to see the duck, then that's a good thing. You don't have to bump your head to learn how to duck. So it's okay to join and or take over an existing organization, right? You can make it what you want. You don't have to start something new. And then the other thing is, we're critical about the fact that the folks that get out on these doors, man, they're coming because they care. Some of them are coming because they also need a paycheck, right? So there's work involved, but they're coming, they could get a paycheck doing anything. This is something that people choose to do because they believe in it and they want to see our community get better. So I'm
Exactly.
asking folks, you asked what folks could do, give a little grace to those folks on the doors. I
Yeah,
know we've
yeah,
rung your phone a million times and knocked your door 2,000 times, but please understand that the person coming to your door is not your enemy. And just because you see a big black man in a hoodie and a mask, hey man, teddy bears, teddy bears. We
Yeah.
are nice and fluffy, not dangerous. So if you see us, don't assume it's trouble because we
Right.
might just be your savior, right?
Exactly.
So we're asking for a little grace on the doors from the folks.
yeah.
Awesome.
And know when you get that knock, how you perceive something. So if you know that knock is filled with love, if you know that text was sent because you matter, right? Your vote matters. Your presence matters. Your thought matters. If you understand that, then when you see the text, it won't be like if I get one more text, I'm gonna scream and just block everybody. Just accept it as your importance. Imagine it. It's like you're a celebrity. People are reaching out to you because you are that important. And then on the door, and we do know it's Christmas time, it's COVID, there's lots of reasons not to open the door, right? So if you happen to have some anxiety, talk through the door and listen to what people are asking you to do. Don't just act like you're not home. Just say, I'm not comfortable, you know, move along, leave your information, and I'll follow up. And when you get that word, or if you don't even see that person or talk to them, when you retrieve that information, hit that QR code, go to that website, look at the information, check out who candidates are, both sides, so that you know what you're doing when you get ready to vote. But follow through. It's meaningful because every time you answer a survey, click on give your information, you're giving it to folks like me and John. So we're not asking you to do something that's going into some Amazon database. We're asking you to be with us. Join us. And when we come back around, when we didn't ask people to volunteer without paying them. We know how important it is to have resources. So receive us. So if you're seeing Black Male Initiative, or you're seeing Let's Do It Again, or you're seeing Georgia Stand Up, or you're seeing the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda, embrace us with love because that's what we're coming with.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for coming out and educating our viewers. And we would love to have you guys back, to go over some more details. And, if you can, just give them the website for the Black Male Initiative as well as, the Black Women's Roundtable so they can get in touch with you guys and come out, for the information with the canvassing. If you could do that again for us, Ms. Davis.
So you can go to thepeoplesagenda.org. And when you go there, there's a link for volunteers. Sign up there, and you'll be able to say what you're interested in doing. And then for Black Male Initiative, and I can't shout out their address, but if you Google them, which is easy to do, just Google Black Male Initiative. If John is not there to share it, you will find them. And even if you go to People's Agenda, when we're on our phones and other devices, we can direct you immediately. But please go there. That's one extra step than if we had the link in the chat. But just Google Black Male Initiative Atlanta. Boom, you're in. It's done.
Yes, and I will put that link out to the viewers as well, pin it on both of our sites. So I have you guys covered on that. And I just want to say thank you both to Mr. John Taylor as well as Miss Felicia Davis. You guys are amazing. I admire you both. Continue to do the work that you're doing. And of course, I'm going to be joining, some of the organizations. So I can't wait. I was very impressed with everything, so continue the great work. And this segment, again, viewers, was brought to you and powered by Sapphire Emerald Magazine, as well as UnstoppableProducts.com and Made by God Apparel. And stay tuned. We are amazed at the work that these wonderful organizations are doing to educate you all. So go out, exercise your right, get active within the community. It takes more than just voting. You have to be an advocate, but you also have to be an activist for what you're advocating for. So, with that being said, thank you for joining us this evening. I am your host, Michelle Diamond, and we will be back again with Mr. Taylor as well as Ms. Davis because we have so much more to discuss and educate you all on. And you guys have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having us.